Welcome to Earth Eats. I'm Kate Young, and today we're going to make carrot ginger soup. This is a recipe that I turn to again and again. It's so simple. It has really a few ingredients in it, and that's one of the things I love about it, but it's packed with flavor. These carrots I got from my garden. Carrots are a great fall crop. They're also, you can keep them in the ground over the winter, and what's wonderful about garden carrots is that as the temperatures get colder, the carrots get sweeter. The plant kind of concentrates its sugars into the root, and it makes the most delicious carrot. So I love to grow carrots in the fall and in the winter, and that's what these are. We are going to start by, you definitely want to peel them. Some people probably wouldn't, I guess, but I don't. I feel like the peel adds just a little bit of bitterness to it, and I don't want that. I'm going for the sweet. And then we're gonna slice them into rounds, but you don't really need to worry about getting even thickness or anything. This is gonna be a pureed soup. We're gonna cook them, and then we're gonna puree them. The next ingredient is ginger. I'm using a ginger that's already pureed, but you can also just peel and mince your ginger very finely, or you could grate it with a microplane or put it in a food processor. You just want to make sure it's nice and finely chopped. 2 tablespoons of butter, and then there's a parsley garnish. And then also another very important ingredient is the stock. You can use water. It will not be as flavorful. I really cannot recommend homemade stock more strongly. It really adds a depth of flavor to all of your soups and other dishes that you would use water or stock in. I like to make my own. I make chicken stock and I make vegetable stock. This is a chicken stock. It's so simple to do. Anytime, if you're not a vegetarian, anytime you cook chicken or turkey, you can set aside the bones and scraps and stuff and just cover that with water. Add a bunch of aromatics like parsley or any herbs you might have in your garden. You can put some sage in there, you can put some thyme, you can add celery and carrots, also add a really nice flavor, and a few peppercorns in there. Add some salt. You could leave it unsalted, but I like to put a little salt in there to make sure that the stock itself already has some flavor. So that is a really great thing to make a big pot of it. You just cover it all in water, simmer it on the stove for hours. Makes your kitchen smell really great too. And then you can freeze it and have it around whenever you need to make a soup. So you want to melt 2 tablespoons of butter. This soup could also be vegan. You could use coconut oil or olive oil and a vegetable stock. So once the butter is melted, you're going to add your ginger and get that kind of sizzling, releasing the flavors. And then you want to add those sliced carrots that we prepared. Careful, because it is popping a little bit. And then you just want to coat the carrots in the butter and ginger. Cook those, stirring for about a minute. And then you want to add your stock. You can add some salt at this time too. I'm not going to add a lot because I did salt my stock. Bring this to a boil, and once you've got it boiling, turn it down to a simmer and just let it cook until those carrots get really nice and tender, because we're going to be pureeing it, so we want them to be fully cooked. We'll come back to it when the carrots are ready. So this soup is a really beautiful orange color, and I really like the color orange. And it is really enhanced by just a touch of a green garnish. So I think the parsley works nice with that. Parsley is also something I grabbed out of my garden. It grows well in cold weather. You can usually keep it going all winter. I cover mine, but it doesn't mind getting a little bit cold. And you can chop this as roughly or as finely as you like. We can set that aside and use that as our garnish for our soup. Okay, so our carrots have been cooking on the stove in the broth. Oh, the ginger's in there too. They really smell gingery. And they're nice and soft. So now they're ready to be pureed. I prefer using a immersion blender to make any pureed soups because it just couldn't be easier. You can puree right in the pot. You don't have to transfer it to a blender in stages because, you know, when you blend hot liquid like a soup in a blender, it's going to expand, and there is the likelihood that you're going to have some kind of a disaster in your kitchen when you do that, unless you are careful and you do it in stages. So if you don't have one of these, you can definitely use a regular blender or a food processor. Just be careful and do it in stages. Now you'll notice it is making pretty quick work of this, but it does take a while to get it to the really velvety smooth texture that I'm going for. So a little patience. Oh, I love that color. That's so good. The last ingredient is milk. You can make this a vegetarian or a vegan soup by using vegetable stock instead of chicken, by using coconut oil instead of butter or olive oil, some other oil. And you can use plant-based milk, but I'm just using regular milk for this. And then after adding the milk, you'll want to bring in, heat it up, reheat the soup to make sure the milk is nice and hot, but you do not want to boil it because you don't want the milk to separate. So we'll warm this up and it's ready. All right, let's give this carrot ginger soup a taste. What I love about this soup is the purity of the flavor. You're really just getting the carrot and the ginger. And then there's a depth to it because of the incredible chicken broth that we used. But there's a simplicity to it, both in the making of it, but also in the tasting of it. And I just love this soup so much. I return to it again and again. It's just one of my favorites. I hope you will give it a try. And if you enjoyed this recipe, please subscribe and share this with your friends. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Earth Eats. You can also listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcast app and find more recipes at eartheats.org. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.